Hey everybody, welcome back to Style So Me. Today we're working on this pencil skirt. This is a fitted pencil skirt drafted from your own measurements. I have chosen to use black waistband and a black hemband with a fun floral pattern. My fabric of choice is a scuba knit, but you can use whatever knit that you like. Just make sure you've got some stretch. To get the measurements that you'll need for this, I've created a worksheet for you. Just click the link in the download bar and I've created a PDF for you to list out your measurements and the simple calculations that you'll need. I also included a supplies list. So make sure to go to that link, download the worksheet, and meet me back here. Don't worry about those measurements. If you're a little bit shy with those, I'm going to walk you through that step by step. And let's get started. Okay, now we're going to work on your measurements. It's best to take your measurements in undergarments only, or you can wear a tank top and some fitted shorts or something very close fitting so that you can get accurate measurements. I've already written my measurements down, but I'm going to show you how to take yours. The first measurement we're going to take is your high waist. Your high waist is generally an inch or two above your navel, but the easiest way to spot it is that it's the smallest point of your torso. And when you bring your fingers in and you feel where it comes in, and that for me that's about right here, that's where I'm going to take that measurement. You wrap the tape measure around and you take your measurement. And don't worry, if you get your measurements a little big, I'm going to show you how to take it in. The next measurement you're going to need is your low waist, and your low waist is generally around your belly button. Next, you're going to measure the fullest part of your hips. You always want to err on the side of larger because you can always take it in later. The next measurement is going to be above your knee. Now I want you to stand with your feet shoulder width apart, just very relaxed, and take your measurement a couple of inches above your knee. The next measurement you're going to take is the bottom of your skirt, where your skirt's going to get. And again, standing with your legs shoulder width apart. You're going to measure about an inch or two below your kneecap. Okay, now that we've got your circumference measurements, we're going to take some vertical measurements. The first measurement we're going to take is your high waist to low waist measurement. And you're going to start at the same point of your high waist down to your low waist. And it's usually only a few inches, maybe 2 to 3 inches, depending on the person. And you're going to record that measurement. It might be best to get someone to help you with this, but it's no biggie if you can't. It's best to turn to the side for this measurement. And you're going to bring your tape to about where your low waist hits, and you're going to bring it down to the fullest part, the same area that you measured for your hips. Next, you're going to take your hips to the point above your knee. Now, the trick to taking longer measurements for yourself without help is to just walk the tape down. So I'm going to place my tape at my hip measurement, and then I'm just going to walk it down to that same point above my knee. And you're going to take your low waist to above knee. You can do some math to figure that out, but I always like to take the measurement just in case. And simply walk it down and record that measurement. And the last measurement for your band at the bottom is going to be your above knee measurement down to the bottom of your skirt. You're going to start at your above knee and walk it down to the same point where you want your skirt to end. So go ahead and do those calculations, and I'll be right here. And let's get started with drafting. Okay, now we're going to get started drafting your measurement. And from this point on, we're only going to be talking about the calculated measurements, not your original measurements, but the measurements that you got when you finished doing your calculations. The first measurement we're going to plot out is the width of the high waist, and for me that is 7.25. You are going to use your calculated measurement. So I'm taking a ruler up against my paper and I'm plotting out 7.125 right here, and I'm simply just going to draw a line out to that point. Next, I'm going to take the high waist to low waist +1 measurement and measure down vertically on my paper. For me, that is 4 inches. I'm going to make a dot down at that point, and then I'm going to extend out at that point my low waist calculated measurement, which for me is 7.75. So I'm going to dot my final destination and I'm going to connect those lines. If you have a hip curve ruler, it comes in very handy at this point, but if not, you can simply just do it visually. You're going to connect those lines. With a hip curve, you play with it based on the depth of the curve and you see where it matches. And for me, it matches pretty high up. So now you have just plotted the top waistband. So let's continue with the main panel of your skirt. So this is your high waist and this is your low waist. The next line we're going to plot is your hips, and so we're going to take the measurement from your low waist to your hips. So I'm going to measure down from my low waist down 6.5 inches, make a dot, and that is where my hip line will start. And then I'm going to take my hip line calculated measurement, so there's 9.25 and whatever your measurement is, and I'm just going to draw that line out and label it hips. Then I'm going to take my hip curve ruler and connect those two dots. Oh, I made a boo-boo. That's okay. So now you got your top waistband and you've got your low waist to hips. Next, we're going to take the measurement from your hips to your measurement above the knee. So I'm going to mark down 14.5 on my paper. And then I'm going to take my calculated measurement of my above the knee measurement, mark it out, and draw the line. And again, take your hip curve ruler and connect the two. I'm just going to say AK for my above knee measurement. So to take the rest of my measurements, I'm going to just simply flip my paper over, and starting off with my point for my above knee, which is 7.25, you're just going to plot the line that you just left off with. Then you're going to take the measurement from above knee to hemline. For me, it's 7 inches. Make that dot, and you're going to draw out your hemline measurement, which for me is 6.5. I'm going to say hemline. Take your hip curve and connect the dots. And now you've got your bottom band. So you have plotted out your measurements, and see, that wasn't so hard. Now you're simply going to take your paper scissors and cut out these pattern pieces. So now that we've got your pattern pieces cut out, we're going to label them. Starting from the top with your high waist to low waist measurement is going to be your waistband. Since we cut it this way, we're going to be cutting it on the fold, and your fold will be here. So you're simply just going to draw an arrow and label it fold, and we're going to be cutting 2. Cut 2. Same thing on the main panel of your skirt. This is the fold. We are going to be cutting it on the fold of your fabric, and we're going to be cutting 2. The bottom band, same thing. And we are going to cut 2. All right, let's get to the fabric. I'm gonna get my selvedge edge as even across as possible. That fits my main panel perfectly. That helps me to conserve some fabric. And then I'm gonna cut out my panel. All right, I've got one panel cut out. And I'm simply just going to readjust my fabric and give myself a new fold. Okay, you've got the main panel of your skirt out, and we're going to do the same concept of folding our fabric to cut out the smaller bands, the waistband and the bottom band of your skirt. So we're going to take this fabric, the top layer, and we're going to create a smaller fold. Another option is to have your selvages meeting in the middle, which is what I'm going to do this time. And you could actually do that with your main panels as well. I just wanted to show you different ways to lay out your fabric. This creates 2 folds, so you only need to use one end of your fabric. You take your band pieces and place them on the fold. Get out your pattern weights and cut those pieces. Now to use the other side of your fold, you're going to take these pattern pieces and flip them over to use on your other fold. So take them, pattern piece, and flip it over to use on your other fold. Okay, you should have 2 of each pattern piece cut out on the fold. You should have your front and back to your main panel, the front and back to your bottom band, and the front and back to your top waistband. Okay, now we're going to sew. So first we're going to sew the waistband to the skirt, main skirt panel, and we're going to sew them right sides together. So you're going to put the 2 ends together, the top, and pin them together. I'm working with a scuba knit, and mine's pretty stretchy and a little slippery, so I'm going to pin mine a little more often. So that side's done, and I'm going to do the same with the other pieces. So let's take these pieces to the sewing machine. Since we're sewing a stretchy fabric and it's going to be a fitted garment, then I want you to use a stretch stitch. And on my machine, that is stitch number 3, and this is what it looks like. You're simply going to stitch using a stretch stitch at 1/2 inch seam allowance all the way down. And do the same to the other panel. So next up, you are going to attach your bottom band to your skirt panel. You're going to do this to both panels. So end to end, 1/2 inch seam allowance. Okay, I'm checking in with you, and so far we have the front and we have the front and the back of our skirt put together. But before we join those 2 pieces together, let's go ahead and finish the raw edges of our seam allowance. This is what serged seam allowance looks like. Now that I've got my seam allowances pressed and my seam allowances finished with my serger, or you've chosen to not finish yours at all, which is totally fine, I'm going to sew my front and back panel pieces together. For attaching your skirt front to back, you may choose to use a straight basting stitch, which is usually stitch 0, and choosing your length of that stitch as long as it will go. My machine goes up to 5. This way you can do a quick basting of your pieces together, try on your skirt and see how it fits. Try on your skirt on the inside out. Mark on your skirt on the inside about how much you need to take it in, and then sew your real stretch stitch. So for me, back to stitch number 3, and go ahead and finish up your skirt. So I've got my panel pieces here and they're right sides together. I'm just going to pin them all the way down on both sides. When you're pinning and you are matching seam lines, you want to attach a pin at the top and the bottom, and then you want to make sure that your seam lines match, and then continue pinning in between. So now that we've got the panels pinned front to back, let's go ahead and baste them together and try on this. So now I'm trying on my skirt. I basted my sides together and I'm trying on my skirt, and it fits perfectly. So I'm going to go ahead and go over this seam again with the proper stretch stitch. So now that you've finished basting your skirt panels together, fitting your skirt, making any necessary adjustments, go ahead and finish, press those seam allowances, and then finish those seam allowances with your serger or a zigzag stitch if you so choose. Next, we're going to do the last couple of steps, which is turning down the hem of your waistband and the bottom of your skirt. Skirt, give those seams a last press, and you are done. Hey everybody, you are all done. I hope that you have enjoyed making your skirt. I know that I absolutely love mine. It fits like a dream. And for a skirt with no zipper, you can comfortably move in it. You can dress it up for work or church or some social engagement. You can dress it down for happy hour or date night, whatever you like. So I hope that you've enjoyed this tutorial. I hope that you love your skirt as much as I do. And I hope that you join me over at stylesewme.com. Make sure I have your email address so you make sure that you don't miss any more updates, any more coupon codes, and any more of my new tutorials coming up. Thank you so much for your support, and I'll see you later. Bye.